Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Holly Pritchard, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Sergeant Talia Thomas. 2026 marks 125 years of dedicated service by the Australian Army and its predecessors. Today, we remember and pay tribute to Driver Charles Herity Manning. We warmly welcome Defence Surgeon General of the New Zealand Defence Force, Brigadier Charmaine Tate, and the delegation in attendance from the New Zealand Defence Force Command and Staff College. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Mentone Grammar School, visiting from Mentone, Victoria. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Those who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to driver Charles Herity Manning. Charles Manning was born on the 29th of December 1876 at Hay, New South Wales, to Charles Cornelius Manning and Jane Herity. His father died when Charles was young. After his mother remarried, the family moved to Victoria. Charles attended Scotch College in Melbourne and was a member of the Army Cadets. As a young man, he spent a year as a Victorian Ranger and 3 years with the Victorian Field Artillery Militia. Charles Manning then began work as a police constable in Melbourne and married Mary Bartley in 1896. The couple had a son, Charles Bartley Manning, that same year. After 14 years' service with the Victorian Police, Charles Manning had to reinvent his life. In controversial circumstances, his career as a policeman ended, his marriage had broken down, and he took on a new occupation, retraining as a saddler. When the First World War broke out, Charles was working as a station manager. He enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 21st of November 1914, aged 36. Separated from his wife, Charles recorded that he was unmarried with no children, listing his mother as his next of kin. He did not reveal his previous convictions nor his experience as a member of the police force. Allocated to the 1st Reinforcements of the 3rd Australian Field Artillery Brigade with the rank of driver, Charles went into camp at Broadmeadow. Here, he and his fellow recruits were assembled, equipped, and given basic training. He embarked at Melbourne in the troop ship Border on the 22nd of December 1914, arriving in Egypt in early February. At Mena Camp in Sierra, the field artillery were put through a regime of continuous training, kit inspection, drill, and route marches in the desert. Charles was transformed to the 7th Battery, a subunit of the 3rd Field Artillery Brigade, on the 29th of March 1915. The battery was intended to support the infantry and was equipped with 18-pounder guns. In early April, driver Charles Manning and his unit left Egypt and moved to the Greek islands of Lemnos for 2 weeks in preparation for the Gallipoli campaign. They made route marches around the island and practiced loading horses and guns into the boats from which they would land. Late on the night of the 24th of April, the men boarded troop ships to sail to the short distance to the Gallipoli Peninsula. They were unable to land until the morning of April 26 and spent the day manhandling guns and ammunition up the steep gullies. For the men of the 7th Battery, there was no introduction to battle. They were in the thick of it from the start, digging gun pits, firing and being fired upon under near constraint shellings. Over May and June, the battery were kept in continuous activity supporting the infantry operations. On the 3rd of July at 9:15 in the morning, the enemy shielded their battery positions, killing one man and wounding another. The soldier that was killed was driver Charles Manning. He was 38 years old. Charles was buried at a nearby cemetery in Shell Green. The notice of Charles' death disappeared in Melbourne newspapers, causing great anxiety for his mother. She had not been notified by the telegram, and believing that she was listed as a next of kin, she immediately telephoned base records to ask why she had not been informed that her son had been killed. The confusion continued as Charles' mother was told that her son had not been killed but dangerously ill. There were 2 factors that caused the distressing situation. The first was the next of kin. When he enlisted, Charles stated that he was unmarried and recorded his mother as next of kin. At some point, though, Charles' estranged wife had advised Army records that she was Charles's next of kin and the person to be informed in the event of his death. The second complication was that on the same day that Charles Manning was killed, Another Victorian soldier with the same surname was badly wounded on Gallipoli. This led to Charles' mother being told he was still alive. Charles Manning's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember driver Charles Herity Manning, who gave his life for us, for our freedom, in hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.